So welcome everyone to the masterclass. And can I start off by saying another interesting day on planet Earth? Because it definitely is. It seems like every day we're waking up to something else that really tests our faith. And, you know, we're being tested at the moment. And I think what I've done is to help me get over it is, you know, I've definitely been in nature yesterday. And I know Andrea was out in nature yesterday. Yesterday, I spent the whole day in the garden and playing in the, you know, around in the garden with the fairies. I seem to navigate there. And the second thing is, you know, I've started to look at my cards that I have, like next to my desk is the Archangel Michael cards, and I pulled one for the group and it said new beginnings and a fresh start. So it's talking about, you know, the endings of things and having to let that go and absolutely have faith that there is something new, a new beginning, whether it be at work or in family or somewhere in your life where that is unfolding. And it's interesting. It really calls you to, you know, have a look what you believe and where your faith is, because we get so hooked into the outer world and hooked into the narrative. And, you know, Andrea and I have for the last 2 or 3 weeks have been going to the rallies and putting our voice there and our energy into the group. And it's been stunning just to be in the energy of everyone else who are so in solidarity about, you know, really helping each other. There's no, I want to kill you and all the rest of it. It's really beautiful and peaceful, and people are coming together. And I think, you know, each week there seems to be a little theme that we're looking at. And now the Indigenous are standing up and going, come, and we are the sovereigns of the land. Come and be sovereign with us. Stand under our rule, because they're also being targeted as well. So lots of different things, and sometimes really good to get away from the computer and all the foreign events that just harness our mind, because collectively we're seeing that many are just in this hive mind mentality. You know, if I do this, you've got to do that. And it's very hard to be an individual spiritual warrior when there's so much conformity and mind entrapment. And that's what we've been in. We've been slaves to a matrix that we're unfurling ourselves from. I saw this during the week from a beautiful Mexican healer and poet, and I really wanted to read it to you. Heal yourself with the light of the sun and the rays of the moon, with the sound of the river and the waterfall, with the swaying of the sea and the fluttering of birds. Heal yourself with mint, neem, and eucalyptus, sweeten with lavender and rosemary and chamomile. Hug yourself with the cacao bean and a hint of cinnamon. Put love in tea instead of sugar and drink it, looking at the stars. Heal yourself with the kiss that the wind gives you and the hugs of the rain. Stand strong with your bare feet on the ground and with everything that comes from it. Be smarter every day by listening to your intuition, looking at the world with your forehead, and jump, dance, sing, so that you live happier. Heal yourself with a beautiful love and always remember you are the medicine. I thought that was really a lovely reminder that everything that we have for healing is around us and within us. And when I was reading that, I had beautiful tingling on my skin. So hope you enjoyed that. So the other day I sent out a little video. Yeah, beautiful it is, Nicole, absolutely. The other day I sent out a little video because we're being hit with the truth. And part of what's happening is we need to observe the areas that we haven't wanted to see. And it's not to get hooked into and try to rob our consciousness and get into the fear. It's like, this has been going on, you need to see this. And then when you see it, it's like, well, this is not okay. I don't put up with this. And so when we look back in history, it's actually given to us as a high story or a his story. It's just based on somebody's recognition. And we can look back at the past and think, this is what we did before. Are we going to do this again? And clearly there is a story about our history. And I found this video, which I sent to everybody. I'm not too sure if anybody ever watched it, but it's talking about the lost history of Earth. And it gives some reference to the original text of the Bible. And it also looks at the book of Enoch. And Enoch talks about the fallen angels. And there's some reference to the fallen angels still living in Antarctica. And there's a lot of activity in Antarctica. And then there's often talk about the fact that there's a Stargate down there, there's guardians, and perhaps there is an alien gateway. So I don't know, we haven't been there, but anyway, it looks at the Earth and the history, and it gives some pictures of the past. And in the images in the past of photographs, always there are all these magnificent buildings, but nobody in the street. And the commentator was saying, well, interesting, at that time in that country, in this city, this was how many people were living there. How come there was no people on the street? And then they talk about, especially in the 1800s, if you start looking at the magnificent buildings, and one of them they talked about was the Arc de Triomphe. And they said, if you have a look at the intricate details, the symmetry, the perfect geometry of everything that's up there and how massive it is, the granite and sandstone that they used, how did they get it so beautifully even when on the streets, the ordinary man had cobblestones, which were all dirty and very uneven. And if you looked at the things that they were using at that time, it was just simply very, they didn't have modern technology to, have a crane lift up the blocks and all the rest of it. So it really went back and had a look at, has history been a story? Because the buildings were there a long time before the people were there. And so the other thing it talks about is the modern woman, or modern man. It says life expectancy currently is about 75 years, and the prime fertility time is 17 to 35. But when you look at Diluvian woman, the life expectancy was 750 years. And the prime fertility time was the ages 17 to 350. And it talks about that Noah was 950 years old when he died. Methuselah was 969 years. Also in the original Bible, it talks about that Adam, as in Adam and Eve, Adam was 620, meaning he was 93 feet tall. That Eve, we're told, came from Adam's rib, but actually it talks about that Eve came from Adam's ribosome. So all these things that we've been told is our history can be considered as a story. So, in the past, we've had masterclass, we've talked about the fact that it's our natural state to be able to live forever, that there were giant races, but apparently after the flood, Noah's flood, something happened in the skies, and all of a sudden people started to not be as tall and not live as long. And a part of that is the programming. So we've got a history that has been hidden from us, and we have to have a look. And it was interesting because I was showing Brian this video, and he is such a buff of history, especially to do with wars. And I was showing him this. He goes, no, that's not true. And I said, why is it not true? Because the books say it's this. I said, yes, but have you just been programmed to believe that that's how it is? And how interesting that once another bit of information comes against your belief, it sort of rubs you and you find it hard to accept. And I said, this is really an analogy for what's happening in the collective at the moment. They've been told a story and you offer them another story, and they can't quite come to terms with that. So I'll give you an example. So when Brian said to his brother during the week, I've accepted that Dad's had the jab, and now he has a heart condition that he never had before. And I think he's had an adverse reaction to the jab. And he just got a strong, no, that can't be, that's not true. And so this is what's happening for people in this hive mind, thinking they can't accept that there's another model, and they have to come to their own realization or not. So Andrea and I have lots of conversations probably every single day. And I say to her, if the world was to stop right in the moment and we could go back to how it was, it will never go back to how it was, by the way, if we could just return to how it was, what will have changed for humanity in the 2 years that we've spent going through this? What will have changed? Have we changed the way that we consider each other? Have we changed the way that we're doing? Has it brought us closer to, who we are as soul, and understood, we're going to act from that place, from our intuition, or is it just that we're a small majority and then everybody still hasn't really changed? And what's happening in Australia is very interesting because it's happening also everywhere. We were talking to our friends in Steyr in Austria, and they're locked down. If you're not jabbed, you're not allowed to go out. And so they're starting to protest. Tomorrow's the day when none of them are going out shopping. None of them are going to work. They start to also think about pulling the money out of the bank and sending a clear message. So collectively, we're all starting to be proactive, because it's okay to sit and do controls, but at some stage you also need to act in the world, because we are part of the world. And even if it's like Rivka does, shares information for everybody so that they can see what's going on, or it's like Andrea and I, who perhaps go to the protests, or beautiful Nicole, who's come into our life, who's sitting with Brian on a Saturday and starting to learn these technologies, then you can start to see that you're in participation in some way of it shifting. So today I want to just discuss a little bit about space-time and time and space. We're also going to have a look at a little bit of information about Grabavoy and what I've been talking about in the last couple of months to understand the point of realization of a control. And I'm just going to add another dimension onto that. And then we're also going to journey to the Temple of the Soul and to the Tree of Life, because I've had quite a bit of feedback. Intuitively checked if this was something that we needed to do, and there's a little different flavor with that today. So we're also going to do some timeline stuff, and it was beautifully reminded this week when we connected with Professor Leslie about how important timeline about harmonizing the past and also harmonizing future. So I'll talk about that when I get to it. So let's talk a little bit about space and time and space, because we exist in both. So space-time is the realm of the infinite space. So it's 3 dimensions of the universe. It has height, depth, and width. So I've put a little cube up here. So cube represents time and space. Its density, form, structure, matter. We talk about body and people and things and places. So time is lineal. So we seem to think of it as, the past, the present, and the future. It's all about our senses and creating duality, polarity, locality, and the consciousness, how we think. We think of somebody or someone or something somewhere. It's very much an outward expression. Whereas space, or time and space, the realm of eternal time, quantum world, 5th dimensional universe, non-locality, antimatter, we talk about, and especially this is where we talk about when we do a control, we send a standing wave of our consciousness, of our thoughts, into the field, which creates energy. And our consciousness, our conscious thoughts create a frequency. Now, I'll give you a good example. When Andrea and I are at the rally, there is a frequency that's really high, even though people have come there with a thought, but the energy of the group is high. It actually is elating to be in there. So time is infinite, eternal, non-linear. Everything is happening in the eternal now. No senses. We're in that oneness, unity, connectedness, the unknown, predictability, and the consciousness is everyone, everything, everywhere, anytime. So I'll put that in another slide. So space-time is material reality, and our attention is always on our body or someone or something or somewhere. It's definitely an outward focus. And the bridge to that is where, when, for instance, we get into a control, and what we've been doing the last couple of weeks, last couple of masterclasses, is where we start to expand our consciousness so you don't feel your body. You start to feel like you have a deeper awareness. And at this level, it's the speed of light. So our thoughts are as faster than the speed of light. So time, space, one consciousness where there's no time, no space, there's just all space and time. We start to talk about everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, every time. There is no location. It's not like this is the past, this is the future, and that we understand that it's all happening at the same time. And then we step into the greatest super consciousness, quantum level, where there's absolutely infinite unknowing and possibilities. And you create the possibility by your attention on the quantum field. So we talk about anybody, anyone, anything, anywhere, anytime. There's just infinite possibilities. When we've been discussing about doing a control, going into a process, one of the things that I've said, it's really important to be on the right platform, because at the start, when we start doing a control, it's a very left brain process. Say these words, imagine this, and you're having to, you know, accept that it's actually happening. And one of the things that I like to do with people to prove to them how powerful they are is to do the control with the 2 glasses of water, where you use the cube cone cube over it and change the water. And as I say, you know, if you've in a micro moment been able to change the water without hardly any focus and just some words, then the same is happening not only in your body but also in the existing world. The only difference is you can't taste it. And so this is where we have to step into the level of belief. So when we start to have clear objective, and that's really important, that it's not fluffy, that you're acting as the creator. So you have a clear directive, which is harmonize this or regenerate this. When you do that, you send a standing wave of your consciousness into the quantum field, into your 5 meters where you create around you. And in that area, there is a point of realizing the goal. And so when the goal is realized, when your objective is realized, there will be a light in that area that reflects it back to you. And this means it has a point of realization. Let me explain it another way. So here we are standing. We have our current state of health. We decide what our current state of health is, or you've had, for instance, somebody external to you tell you what your current state of health is. And what happens with most people is that they see themselves as sick. And so when you do a control, they see themselves sometimes as on this journey of getting better or healing. But in fact, that's a very 3D look at how your health is. So when we do a control, we set an objective, we put it into a sphere. We might use number codes, or we maybe just use a clear statement. And then we send that control through our standing waves of our thoughts, our consciousness, to be harmoniously developed and move without hindrance into the area of realization. Now, sometimes we have a resistance, and the resistance can be our consciousness, or could be a structure in our 5 meters that's hindering us, or in the macro area that's hindering us. And we can see that in our consciousness sometimes as geometric forms that are not in harmony, or there's just a feeling. And the feelings that you get often give you a reminder. We forget about this. I was saying to Andrea a couple of weeks ago, we are meant to have Christmas at our house, but I'm getting the feeling that we're not having it. So I knew before, I got the feeling before that it wasn't happening. And so I wasn't creating that. It was just that I had this knowing around it. So when this sphere of our consciousness, of our objective, reaches the point of realization, it will appear as a dot, and it will start to be luminescent. It will start to glow. And then, as I said, it comes back to you. Now, here's the other layer to it. At the point when we put our objective and into the field, and we're looking with our inner vision and just allowing the images to come up, and not so much like desperately looking for a point in space for glowing. When we start to move into that quantum area, we're allowing our consciousness to reveal it to us. In that moment, what helps to speed it up is already seeing yourself whole, already seeing yourself healed. So you're not looking in your objective of a sick person. You're already seeing yourself already healed, or you're already seeing events in harmony. And in that moment, if you marry it with the feelings of gratitude, of care or joy or acceptance, compassion or inspiration, if you can feel in your body that feeling, and so, you know, it might be that you see yourself and, you know, on a holiday, for instance, and most of us can't go on a holiday. But if you see yourself in the location, doing the activities and feeling an elated, grateful feeling, not only just in your thoughts, but in your being, this is what helps to light up that point of realization. And then what happens is that light comes back and it'll hit you in the chest. And like Yelena would know, because she regrew her surgically removed ovaries, she just said, I knew when it was done. I just knew. And that's the same feeling, like I said, you know, when I knew we weren't going to be organizing a Christmas. So that will speed up to you. But remember, don't see yourself with the impairment. You are already healed. On a quantum level, you are already healed. It's just that we put our perception into what we believe is our current state and accept that as reality, when it's just saying, maybe on a quantum level where you exist in multiple dimensions at multiple times, that there's an infinite number of possibilities, or in the past we've talked about the infinite number of timelines. So you can be in a timeline of fear, or you can be on a timeline where if your body is not well and you've listened to the doctor and it starts on a journey, you make a conscious decision to be on that timeline. And interesting, Bev, who shares the daily concentrations, you know, when we discuss things in the outer world, she just says to me, that's not on my timeline. And she's so definite. And you'll know that because she's put into the Telegram group her the declaration that she makes every single day when she goes for a walk. She listens to that declaration. And so it's so, you can see it when she talks about it. It's not just, I'm speaking this. It's actually, I know this, I am this. So that will help you speed up that. So when you're visualizing, when you're starting to see the images of you already well and the whole events around it, and if you can marry it with that emotion in that moment, that helps to speed up that control. Now, sometimes along the way, there is resistance. So let me have a look from this point of view. So here you are in the present moment with the current reality, and you'll have the point of realization of your events. In the infinite future, so you can take yourself into the future where you're looking from 100 years back to now. And you can have a look and say, is there some resistance around me? Is there events in harmony? Am I in harmony in those events? And if you're not in harmony, then you just need to harmonize, for instance, your timeline, or remove the events. So for instance, if you saw some geometric form that wasn't in harmony, or you saw an event that wasn't in harmony, you could use, for instance, the E equals VS cube of mirrors, surround the event, give it the objective to remove any unharmonious events, and then shrink it to a dot and take it outside your 5 meters. So there's different ways that you can play with that, but we need to go into, have a look from all different perspectives. We only think it's like this, but we can look from different perspectives and go, how does the future look? If I take myself into the future, does things look in harmony? Yes, they look in harmony. Okay, everything's okay. It comes back into practice, and it comes back into, if I've been able to do this in the past, if I've been able to change the water in a glass in a micro moment, then I've also changed it in my body, and I've also changed the quantum field. The only difference is that I can't drink the water in the quantum field. It's already done. What stops it is your doubt. And then what also stops it is like, when's it going to turn up? Because you're looking from a 3D perspective and not from a higher perspective, and understand there's certain pieces of the puzzle that needs to happen for things to work out. And it's only in retrospect when you have a look back and go, oh, okay, now I can see why this needed to happen. And a good example of that is, you know, here's the blessing. If Brian hadn't have got cancer, we wouldn't have gone to Thailand. We wouldn't have met a global family that we now have, of friends that we go and stay with. We wouldn't have met you guys. We wouldn't be creating this in Australia, because and the world, we're probably the strongest group in Australia, and certainly within the US and England. So we wouldn't have had an influence. We wouldn't have been the ones chosen to have this knowledge to help to anchor this into the reality. So what is it that you can do in this current moment to change what's happening in the outer world? Is bring your inner world into harmony. And that will be reflected in the outer world. You're here to anchor that light within you. And most of us, especially when we've come from a Christian background, really feel connected to the Christ consciousness. And the Christ consciousness is waking up in many people on the planet. We hold the coding within our DNA. And what is the DNA referred to? It's actually the book of our life. And where's the book of the life? On the platform of the creator knowledge, in the point of archiving. This is the Akashic records. And you get to change the book of your life. You get to be able to harmonize the events in the book of the life, but your DNA has all the coding, not just the 2 strands and the junk DNA that we've been told about. Your DNA holds initially the words God, eternal within, on every strand of DNA. And when you look at that video, if you're interested, that I sent out about the earth, it really clarifies in the latter part of it was why there is this whole focus to alter the DNA, because the DNA is God's coding written within us, written within our bodies. It's already telling our body who we are. And so to alter the DNA disconnects us from that coding of the creator. And you can see definitely there has been, if you look from a bigger picture, you can see there's also an agenda to get rid of God out of people's consciousness, religion. Even the Pope has tried to make us one global religion, which is not something we want. Everybody has the right to choose what they believe. So what does it mean to live forever? So I covered a little bit last week. I just want to dissect that again. So we know that death is a virus that has been placed into the collective consciousness that we all have played into. And it's seeded through the media, where we're going, oh, well, now that you're this age, this will happen. You're going to get old. Your eyesight, come from the beauty industry. Of course, you're now 60. Of course, you've got wrinkles around your eyes. No, maybe the wrinkles around your eyes is because your body is not hydrated enough. Did the doctor tell you you need to drink 3 to 4 liters of hydrogen ionized water every day? No, not at all. So what does it mean to live forever? Grub Voice said, the eternal creator created everything eternally. The existence of eternity is life always, and life is everywhere. So there is no objective of this is, my goal is to get to eternal life. Eternal life exists everywhere already. Eternal life, is the journey we're having, exists in nature specifically. We are in eternity because eternity is the truth of life. The eternity of life is a continuous process of self-creating, self-healing, self-regeneration of the physical body in the absolute norm. So eternal life is our continuous self-development. And we're always learning. Our soul is creating events in front of us to learn, to experience. And sometimes we can get off path and get into the events and, wallow in our own crap. But everything that's happening to you is to help you grow and evolve in a harmonious way. Just sometimes we don't see it like that. So my question to you, what is death then? What is death? And I'm not going to answer this. I need you to answer this. What is death?
It's just change.
You're
changing from one existence to another.
Yes, that's one interpretation. Yep, thanks, Zoe. Anybody else? What is death?
Yeah, I would say, like Zoe, it's the end of something, but therefore it's the beginning of something else.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else want to have a thought on that? So here's another thing to think about that. So if people lived for nearly 1,000 years, and that was considered the norm, and we don't live for that because we've been programmed to think that we need to leave the planet at some stage. What is death then? If eternity is about life, death also can hold the information of anti-life.
It's a program then.
It's a program. It's somebody's story around it. No, you can't live for 950 years. In fact, when I mention it, you can live forever. Most people have an image of their body decrepit, all of these horrible things that have happened to them now just amplified for 1,000 years. And then I know some people will go, well, actually, all my family won't be there. So what's the point of it? And so I'd like to give you another little example, because I used this with Brian last night when he was going through his stuff with his family. And one of the things was him feeling like he wasn't accepted. He wanted to, so there was two parts. There was a part of him that wanted his independent to be a free spirit, but there's another part of him that wanted to be accepted by the family. And at the moment, he's saying he's not accepted for who he is. So I said, so who does accept you for who you are? And he listed off about 10 people. And I said to him, so you are getting accepted, but you just feel like you want to have it come from your family. And yet, if you had to talk about your brothers and sisters, who would they be? And he talks about some of his friends that mean more to him, like brothers and sisters. So it's just that we lock in our consciousness that it has to turn up in a certain way. And when we start to see that everything we need is always being given to us. So everything we need for life is always given to us. It's in nature. The energy of life is in nature. The energy of healing is in plants. The energy of changing our reality is within us. So everything is already given to us. It's just our perception of what it should look like. So let's move on again. So eternal life is continuous self-development. Eternal life flows within us and we must develop with it. So no destruction, no destructive systems should be around us or inside our biosphere, so our 5 meter, inside the essence of the universe, because there, in the essence of the creator, there is no destruction. Sociology of creativity, of a spiritual and physical eternal life, is based on the truth of the divine and all-embracing creation. So if we're in our consciousness, and we are in a collective consciousness where there are lower consciousnesses existing, and what we're seeing now in our reality is there are many people that are not in harmony with themselves, that have disconnected themselves from their intuition and are listening to an external reality or an external person who tells them how to run their life. And we're seeing that the distortions that are not in line with creation, that are not in line with the creator. And we need to see them so that we can say, this is not in harmony. I need to change that. I need to change my view of what's happening. And when you can step back, as I did with Brian last night, and say, where are you getting what you want? So where you feel challenged in the outer world and you're saying, I'm not getting this, I'm not getting that, or you're annoyed with somebody, what is the trait or what is happening in the outer world that's really annoying you? Because it's just showing there's also that part in yourself. And I said to Brian, where are you not accepting yourself? Where are you not accepting yourself? And I made him look within himself. And then I say, now, where are you getting? And how has it benefited you not to accept yourself? You know, so when you start to look at that, then you start to harmonize it. And we can do that on many levels. You can do it in a cognitive process like I have, or you can do it in a spiritual process, and perhaps both of them, just to bring yourself into alignment. So where there's destruction, there's not eternal life. How can we shift into a 5th dimension reality when we still have this destruction that is happening? And, you know, there will get a place where there will be a shift. And I said to, I was saying to Brian, so how's it a positive thing that your family have sort of let you go? They've actually, in some way, said, be a free spirit. Don't be part of the hive mind. So there's a benefit in here for you. And so I got him to have a look at where the benefit is. How will it benefit him? So life's always working for our development and not so that we end up in Armageddon. As I keep reminding, you know, we haven't come to be here. We all hold the light. We haven't come to be here to be part of some Armageddon at all. We've come here to help to birth the new consciousness, the new earth, the new divinity of absolutely being able to live in eternal life. And one of the things is, you know, it's so easy for us to be pulled into the television world of fake news and what's being shown there. And one of the things is that you can see is in social media is that now they have some technology called metaverse that Facebook have put together, where they've been distracting kids with games and being on games. And the next thing is having a virtual game attached to your eyes where you're watching yourself in a virtual reality and basically disconnecting you from where you are and who you are. And so this is not the reality we want. You have to create the reality you want to live in. So the more that you can spend time in, like, what would be this 5-dimensional reality that we want to exist in? How would it look? You know, what would it be? Everybody's accepted. They're very different. We come together as community. perhaps you want to be part of a community that's devoted to gardens, or you're part of a community that wants to be devoted to the development of consciousness, but everybody's working together. And so the more that we can spend, like, what would heaven on earth look like? And ask yourself that question. And because in your thinking of it, you're starting to bring it into the physical reality. Turn off the telly, put down the papers, and start thinking, what would heaven on earth look like? And you'll start to be working in this eternal life. Here's the second bit. Hence, the second assumption, your soul organizes all the external reality the same way as it organizes your body. So your body is a reflection of your relationship with your soul currently. That is the mechanism of organizing the reality for the soul is unified. Our bodies are organized according to the same laws by which the soul organizes all the external events. So things happen to us in the external events. It's our perception as to how we view these as harmonious or not harmonious. And when we can step out of the emotions of it, because the emotions certainly give us a bit of a signpost to where we are, but also when we can step back and have a look at the bigger picture, now how's this benefiting me, which is probably my standard word that I use for most people who comment when most people come with an issue. And I know poor Andrea, when I kept saying it to her when she was going through her issues, there's always something in there for you to see and evolve. So, you know, for instance, if your body is not well in this moment, so how's this benefiting you? So even looking at lockdown that we've gone through in the last couple of years, how has this benefited you? Well, you had to stop. You had to be with your thoughts. You had to think, what is it that you want? You had to create a new way of living. You know, when people say, oh, well, you know, because you haven't followed the program, now you can't do certain things. I think, I don't care if I don't go to the movies. I don't care if I can't go to a restaurant. I don't really care. I'm okay as I am. I can't travel, which is one of my things. That's okay. But I can travel anywhere in my consciousness. I can plan, you know, so just there's a temporary little hiccup where I can't travel. But hello, we were on the phone to our friends in Steyr on Sunday night and, you know, planning our next trip to Thailand and our next trip to visit them and just coming together like a family does. So the third assumption is the Creator created both everything at the same time and it exists in any of the consequences. So there's harmony. Eternal life is everywhere, in every moment. The Creator creates in harmony and it's just us that changes it. So what does it mean that we are made in the image of God as creators? That's a question to you. What does it mean that we are made in the image of the God as created, as creators? Anybody want to have a thought on that?
Yes.
Yes.
We are just as powerful. It's a realization or a knowing and indeed like sort of go inside and see sort of, you know, how far the light is around you or ask for it anyway. And yeah, we are really, really powerful. And not that I have sort of manifested everything that I wanted to yet, but I feel I will get there. I feel I will get there. And as you would just, yeah, like the manifesting, that's creating.
Yes, perfect. Absolutely. So it's not just necessarily, you know, going off in your consciousness. Every day we are creating. We're either creating in harmony or we're not creating in harmony. But our natural instinct is to create. Like Andrea is, you know, into horticultural and beautiful gardens, and she's always my go-to for my garden. But her natural instinct is to create beauty in the garden, create order. And so that's a natural instinct for her. Whereas like in the other group was saying the other night, Flora is Italian. She's a beautiful cook. And I know Rivka probably would have experienced Flora's cooking. It's her her love is in cooking. And she shares that with everyone. Our natural state is to create. We don't go about every day and wake up and think, what destructive thing can I do today? Our natural state is to order, like Zoe. Zoe's a very good listener. And people come up and tell her things, and she doesn't get into judgment. She's just there to hold the space for them to express as they are. She creates order in the space. She's not adding to it and helping feed their emotions or anything. She's creating order. Is that not true, Zoe? So we're always there creating in some way. So in every moment, you're acting like God when you're creating harmony. So it doesn't have to be an altruistic experience. And the fourth assumption, you perceive external events not only in the form, for example, as an optical range, meaning just through your vision as observing things, or in the form of range perceived in your consciousness, where you'll go into remote areas and start to see images that come to you. But you naturally perceive events at those levels that perhaps you're not aware of now. But in the future, you will develop the systems of your perception and you will have them. So at the moment, we're being filtered from seeing everything. We're being filtered from perhaps creating in our consciousness at a deeper level, because we have this, perhaps doubt or not belief. And what's happening is it's like the veil is being pulled away. And, one of the beautiful controls to do is always just to go in or check with yourself intuitively is my pineal gland clear of any distortions? And when you get an answer to that, you can always do a control, because your pineal gland is your antenna to the other realm. So that's a little bit from Grabavoy from his teachings on salvation and harmonious development. So let's have a look at timelines. So we all have a timeline where we first turned up as a spark of light in the universe. So this was our very first creation, not in this life, but as a soul. And then we have our future, and it's not just a future for the next 10 years. We have the future where we exist, a million years into the future. We don't die. So I was shown this week when we were working with someone the importance of harmonizing your past. And not just to do it once, but to be aware that we're always on the timeline of moving into the future, because in 5 minutes, we will have had a past and we will have moved into the future. So in the past, when I've explained the timeline, I've also explained is that we live in a toroidal field where the past is folding into the now and the future is folding into the now. And the light of the future events is then shining into the moment. So for instance, if your future events in harmony, you have massive light. It's like the dimmer switch is turned right up. But if you have events in the future that are not in harmony, that are distorted in some way, that bright light, the dimmer, has been turned down and that light is shining into the present moment. So one of the things that we have a look at in the timeline, and when we go back into the timeline and have a look at the past, we notice that there are breaks in the timeline, and the breaks represents the times and events in our life where we've had disharmonious events, where we've perhaps stolen from others or robbed or, murdered. So we have events in the past. And how do we know whether the events of the past are still affecting us in the now? Well, what will happen is the events will still be there. There'll be a mirror in the outer world So for instance, say that in the past, we've always been one that sacrificed ourselves for others. And maybe you were in the Crusades and you decided to go into war and you sacrificed yourself in war in some way, or maybe you feel you were Joan of Arc and you were ahead and you went into war and you died for the betterment of your cause. So maybe there's a theme of where you've sacrificed. So there'll be different events where you've sacrificed in your life, and this will be projected in the outer world for you to harmonize. So say, for example, in this life, you've been one to put everybody else ahead of yourself. And, you know, most people who are in service are like that in some way. And now the outer events in the outer world are causing such an adversity that you are now having to put yourself first. So a good example of that is when somebody gets really sick. And I'll use Brian as an example. You know, he was very good at being the businessman and not dealing with the emotional upset. And he just was traveling the world and eating crap food and not dealing with his stuff. So his soul said, stop. Now the focus is you, because there is, if you continue on that path, there's an end of your life. And so soul said, you have to focus on you. You're the only important person in your life at the moment. And so that's what he did. He had to focus on himself. He had to deal with many different levels, the physical level, his emotional level, what's going on mentally. He, you know, died a couple of times. And in then harmonizing himself and bringing back to himself and starting to, he helped to break the patterns of the past. So there's another way that we can do that with controls, because any pattern that you have in the past, if you don't harmonize it, it will be projected into the future. And we saw this week with Professor Leslie. Leslie has a time waver machine now. And so when we said to him, we have someone special we want you to meet, and we'd like you to go through their report on time waver. And he was able to bring up the future timeline. What he also asked of this person was, please let me know of all the shocks you've had in your life. And as I've said to you before, that Dr. Hammer's work from Germany in new medicine was able to see that when you perceive something that happens in your outer world, it creates a biological conflict in the brain, which has a mirror in the physical body. So for instance, you know, sometimes when I read a time waver report and it says, this person cannot digest a boulder of food, meaning he cannot digest some information. And therefore it turns up, for instance, as a tumor in the stomach. Or this person perceives that they are not being nurtured. So these conflicts then have an effect in the future. So I asked this person whether I could say this. So this person had not just a couple of shocks, they had many shocks, almost too much. They also had a history where they had a Jewish lineage. So if you've got 6 generations of your family lineage, you're also working off shocks that the Jewish people and traumas that the Jewish people went through. This person had had 3 car accidents. So I think the universe is trying to tell her that you're meant to be here, that you're here for a purpose. So Leslie was able to look at the timeline and say, yeah, there's 3 key events. These are the dates of these events. I'm not giving you the report to look at and put your mind and focus on, but you need to act really now with some urgency. And so that then catapulted this person into doing some study with Brian and timelines. So we're going to do a timeline control, and I'm going to take you through how to do that. Now, and I'll walk you through it so you don't even have to contemplate what you need to do. But basically, we're going to the point of now, and we're going to look at our timeline in a linear perspective. and we'll look back and see, are there breaks in the timelines, or do you get a sense that there's some cloudiness and darkness, which means that there is information in your field that's not in harmony? And then we're going to take the silver gold sphere of eternity, placing it on the timeline right in the point of now, like a bead on a thread, and we're going to harmonize the timeline by making this, giving the objective for the sphere of eternity to be dynamic, meaning that it is spinning fast and it's moving fast. So when we give an impulse for the sphere to harmonize the timeline, it's moving fast. And the timeline doesn't need to be massive long because you've turned up as a spark of light many eons ago. It just needs to be even as big as it is now. And in your consciousness, what's going to happen is this sphere will move at very fast speed, and you'll start to notice that, or you might get a sense that this timeline now is luminescent white, that there are no breaks in the timeline. Once you get to that point, we now then go into having a look from the point of now into the future. And we also look, are there any echoes or little events in the future that are also distorted? And then we send, again, the sphere of eternity right into, you know, the future, into 1,000,000 years, for example. We harmonize the events in the future. And when you can see that this timeline is also iridescent white, then you know that the events have been harmonized. And as I said, this is your control that you can repeat again, because we're always moving. And you can also keep this as a permanent control, where basically it's put in the background, but you bring it up like a file on your desktop and say, how's my timeline looking? And you just put your attention there. Or maybe if you can't see anything, you don't see any images, you ask yourself, is there any events in my timeline that need to be harmonized, yes or no? And if you hear or get a sense there's a yes or no, then you go through and do this control. Now, I will give you the copy of this for you to have as a control, but we're going to go through now. And when we do this, we'll move into also after that, our next control, which is the Temple of the Soul. So we're going to the Temple of the Soul. I've been asked to take you there again. In the Temple of your soul, there's something that you need to receive, just individual for you. And I'll guide you through that. And then just before the Temple of the Soul is the Tree of Life. And so once we've gone to the Temple of the Soul, we're coming out to the Tree of Life. And I'll walk you through that again. And then once we've done that, we'll come out of the control. So any questions at all? I just need to clear up before we move into our control. Anything you need some clarity on? Hi, Rebecca. I haven't said hello. Mary, Doris, Yvonne, thanks for joining us. Okay. Right, so to move in here, we need to start ourselves on a really good platform on the same level as the creator. So I want you to get comfortable wherever you are. I want you to place your feet on the floor, and I want you just consciously feel your feet touching the ground. Just wiggle your feet, just feel them on the ground. And also to bring your awareness, the fact that you may be sitting in a seat and sitting upright, or you might be lying down, because in the States it's moving close to times for sleep. And I want you to bring your awareness to your breath. Our breath is our connection to spirit. And I want you to fill up the area of your lower abdomen. And I want you to fill that up with a deep breath, breathing into that area. And then totally releasing the breath out. Another deep breath in and out. And I want you to bring your awareness to the top of your head, right to the center of your head. And physically now, bringing your awareness back to your area where your peritoneum is, which is the area between your anus and your genitals. And just like you are doing a pelvic floor contraction, I want you to tighten up that peritoneum area. And I want you to take a breath in and then tighten up your lower abdomen, tighten up your diaphragm. And once you get to there, you've taken that breath in, I want you to release the breath then right up through that area at the top of your head. And then come and bring your awareness again to that area at the peritoneum again, tighten it up. Take a breath in, tighten up your lower belly, tighten up your diaphragm, and release the air out of your top of your head. Now bring your awareness to your heart area. You're going to take a big, expansive breath in the heart area. And we're going to blow out a beautiful, coherent, harmonious impulse of light and our breath through our heart. Take another deep breath in your chest area where your heart is. And then release that through your heart. And our last deep breath in through your heart. Take a big breath in and release. Now I want to bring your awareness to about 16 inches, which is around 40 centimeters above your head, where your soul star chakra is. This is your soul star chakra, is your higher self, your soul. And I want you to imagine a golden light of the Creator coming through your soul star chakra, right through your physical body, and then right out your feet into your earth star chakra and into the crystalline grid of Mother Earth. And I want you to imagine this light running as a constant stream from the Creator through your soul star chakra, right through your physical body, harmonizing all your chakras and meridians and filling your whole physical body with golden light. And then that light streaming out into the crystalline grid of Mother Earth. So you're anchoring yourself in the point of here and now in the physical. Now I want you to bring your awareness to the outer edge of your body, the skin. This is a connection from your inner world to the outer reality. And I want you to bring your awareness to what you feel outside your physical body. Around you is your 1 meter sphere, your personal space. And I want you to expand your awareness into the space within the 1 meter sphere and your physical body. And you may start to lose the sense of your physical body as you expand into this space. Next, I want you to expand your awareness into the 5-meter sphere around you of where you create your reality. And in expanding yourself, you start to lose the sense of me, someone else, and start to realize that you're connected in an information field. You're starting to work in the quantum field. In the light and rescue of humanity and the prevention against any global catastrophes. I am in spirit. I'm in the action part of my soul. I see and act as the Creator sees and acts, in harmony. Rescue and harmonious development for all mankind and the universe. I'm calling up my personal timeline. And I go to the point of now and look back into the past. And this is the past where I first turned up as a spark of light in the universe when the Creator created you as soul. Not in this life, eons ago. And I want you to notice on that timeline if there are any breaks in the timeline, if there's any cloudiness or darkness. Perhaps you may not even see it. You may just even get a knowing or a sense. These breaks in the timelines are just representative of the times in the past where there is distorted events. These events are affecting you in the present, moment of now, and also the future. We're going to take a silver gold sphere of eternity and place it on the timeline like a bead on a thread. And we send a light impulse from the area of our heart to this sphere of eternity and give the objective to make it dynamic. And dynamic means it's spinning fast, and the objective to harmonize your timeline in the past. So very quickly, this sphere of eternity is moving up and down the timeline from now to the past. And as it moves back and forth, up and down the timeline, it's harmonizing the events. And how you know whether these events have been harmonized is a few different ways. You'll notice that the whole timeline becomes luminescent white. You may also just get a sense that these events are harmonized, or you may have an inner knowing that it is done. Just have the clear intention, objective to harmonize your timeline of any unharmonious events. And at the same time, just allow in your consciousness whatever images come up. You are harmonizing the timeline. If your timeline is clear, we're going to place our attention into the future, because the future events are also affecting us now. If your timeline isn't clear, just allow the sphere of eternity to keep moving. So take your attention to the point of now and look into the future. Are there breaks in the timeline? Is there any cloudiness and darkness? Get a sense. And now send the impulse of light to the sphere of eternity and just harmonize the timeline. And when you can see that your timeline has been harmonized, if it isn't, you can still keep the sphere of eternity just moving. Come back to the point of now. Just take a look in both directions to see all the events are harmonized. I send a light impulse from my soul and a light impulse from the created soul and fix the result harmonizing of my timeline. We're next moving to the temple of our soul. See in front of you a golden path in which leads to the temple of your soul. As you walk to the temple of your soul, you'll notice on the left-hand side, there is a tree of life. Just observe the tree of life because we are coming back to the tree of life after our visit to the temple of our soul. We take some steps up to the temple of the soul and stand in front of the golden door of our temple. We give a light impulse to open the temple door and enter the temple of our soul. As you enter the temple of your soul, you'll notice in front of you there is an emerald green slab of crystal. On the left-hand side of standing next to the emerald bed is Archangel Raphael. And on the right-hand side of the bed is Archangel Michael, which is there to bring you to the truth of everything, for you to realize who you are. They assist you to lie on the emerald crystal bed. And as you lay down, it's as if you're laying in a soft, fluffy bed of feathers. You seem to sink right in as if the crystalline bed is made of liquid light. See the whole crystalline green light surrounding your whole physical body. Allow every cell in your body on all levels to absorb the crystal green light. Archangel Raphael comes and places his hand on your heart area. And immediately your heart starts to glow a beautiful golden light. And in this moment, of healing your physical body and healing yourself on all levels, you start to feel the gratitude of having your body already healed, of having the events in your outer world already healed and harmonized, because we've done that in our timeline. Be in the position of already feeling the gratitude or the joy or the care or the compassion or the excitement of already being able to realize who you truly are as soul, who you truly are as an aspect of God, as the aspect of the Creator, that your innate ability is to always create harmony. As Archangel Raphael keeps his hand on your heart area, Archangel Michael comes towards you and whispers something in your ear. Just take your awareness or your knowing. Perhaps you can hear or sense. If you can't, just know that you are still receiving the message if you're not conscious of it. The moment has come to leave the temple. And you notice that Archangel Michael and Archangel Raphael are giving you their hand to help you up from the emerald tablet, crystalline bed. And you notice that Archangel Michael hands you the book of life. This book of life not only reflects your events in the past, but also reflects anything that happens to you on the physical body. You'll notice that the book of life has been marked where the events that have been distorted or not in harmony are now visible to you. I want you to tear out of the book all those pages that no longer belong there and place it into the silver cube of the Creator for further development. Meaning that you've erased the events and those peoples and situations that were not in harmony. Now the Creator can give them events and harmonize them. And hand your book back to Archangel Michael with the deep gratitude for receiving this special knowledge and this special time for healing on multiple levels. You exit the temple of your soul and onto the pathway. You will notice now that the tree of life is on the right-hand side. You move over to the tree of life. And as you move over to the tree of life, it's like a magical door opens and you can see a golden glowing light at the center of the tree. Take a step and merge into this light. Merge into the tree of life. Human being, life. Human being, eternal life. Human being, God creator. While you're in the tree of life, just observe whatever images come up. You might notice it's almost like tiny little fairies, floating images or lights surrounding you. Just allow your consciousness to reveal what is needed for you. The objective is to know yourself as creator, to know yourself that you are eternal and that you can be eternal in a physical body, in a reality where everything is reflected of life, where events are in harmony, and you feel on all levels the love for yourself. Without any distorted perceptions or judgments of yourself. As your whole being absorbs this golden light, it's time to leave. You exit the tree of life and take the path back to the here and now. You start to bring your awareness back to your physical body. You start to feel your feet on the floor, your bottom in the chair. You take a deep breath in, feel yourself anchoring more in the here and now, present, present, present in this moment, here and now. When you're ready, bring your awareness back to now. Bring your consciousness back to now. Bring your physical body back to now. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your hands. And when you're ready, open your eyes. And notice we've had a few people jump in since we came in. So welcome, Faris, who's always up so late in Europe. So all of the people that joined us a little late, you'll have the replay to go through. So don't feel like you've missed out, because we covered so much about the events that happen in our outer world, the abuse, for instance. So you'll understand why the outer world is reflecting that, because we discussed it in reference to the timeline that we harmonized. Anybody want to comment on anything that they experienced or had an understanding of when they were in the temple of their soul or the tree of life, or any images, how you feel now? Anybody want to?
Yes, Marion, can
Yes.
I put my hand up?
Yes, absolutely.
I still don't know how to use the technology, but what I was amazed is that during the timeline, both the past and the future, I experienced incredible nausea and working within my chest, my stomach more,
Yes.
within my stomach, and it was, and I had to have, I took very deep breaths naturally
Yes.
to kind of release that nausea.
Yes.
And that all went away when we went to past the Tree of Life and in the Temple of the Soul. There was absolutely no nausea. And later on in the Tree of Life, there was, I'm aware that I was smiling throughout that whole period.
Wow.
And I felt love and joy well before you mentioned it.
Ah, beautiful. You're
Yeah.
always-
So I really want to receive this recording
yes.
and go through it over again. But why I believe that it's all working is because I experienced it within my body, didn't I?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. You've been able to, well, you've done that, what most people call miracles, being able to regrow your ovaries. But so you know personally how it feels when your control is working, and you know what that nausea in your stomach was saying. Well, here's where the biological conflict was held.
Oh, yes. And
There it is.
my past timeline, I could only observe it as a dark strip. It was just darker than the rest of the image
Yes.
in my mind. It was like a big, black, long, dark strip. That's how it started. But then with all the clearing with the silver gold sphere and my inner processing of it and the breathing of out, I had such a need to breathe everything out. That turned, the picture of it turned to silver and white. So yeah, so now I think when I feel it in my body, I know it's working.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when it comes back to there.
Thanks.
And that was a beautiful control given to us by one of the Russian teachers. Oh God, I've forgotten right at the moment. It was on the tip of my tongue before. Valentina, and I can't say.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So, and she said to us, you know, would you like to erase the information of death out of your timeline in the future? And I said, yes. So I'm always happy for that. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else want to comment? Thanks, Yelena. Anyone else want to comment? I won't go through everybody, but anybody particular had an experience that they felt they wanted to share here? It always helps everybody else when people share.
Marion, not so much a response, although it was lovely. It was when you were talking, was it on the book and tearing out the pages when the dog was barking? It was very hard to hear what you were saying. So I couldn't quite follow.
I just said to tear out the pages of the book. So even though you couldn't hear, subconsciously you would. Tearing out the pages because they were no longer relevant in the book of your life, because you'd harmonized them in the timeline, and you'd also had that session on the crystal tablet, and that you put it into the silver cube of the creator for further development.
But did you have to find those pages or just assume there was?
I said they would be marked so you would see them or sense them. So intuitively you would have seen them and you just needed to take. What I was getting intuitively was you didn't have to go and sift through them. They were just really obvious and you just noticed them and pull them out. So
okay, thank you.
Yes. Good. Thanks, Rivka. Anyone else wanted to share before we go? I wanted to give heaps of time to the people that jumped in. It's really hard when the guys are in America. We've all just had a time shift about a month ago, so we're all in different times. It's always a little bit different, so we're coming a little bit earlier in the US to people. So just watch out for the emails and I'll definitely give you a time. All right, so thanks everyone for joining. As I said, I will put the beautiful timeline control as a document, as a PDF for you to have, and also you will have the replay of this today to go through. So the next time we get together is our last masterclass in a fortnight. So what are we up to today? Today is 29th in the US. It's the 30th in Australia. So that brings us to
the 14th, I think.
14th, yeah, 14th, the 13th and 14th. And then, so that will be our last masterclass for this year. However, I will do a separate equinox. So that'll be around the 21st, 22nd of December for everyone who wants to and who can join in, where we will do a special class just for that. It'll be the winter and in the US, and it'll be the summer in Australia, where we come together collectively with an objective.
Well,
So
we won't be going anywhere.
we won't be going anywhere. That's right. We won't be going anywhere. So Faris, we started an hour and a half ago. So that was 9:30 a.m. in Melbourne, Australia, just so for people to know. And so you can just check that. I know it's the middle of the night for you in Europe. So thanks,
I
everyone.
miscalculated, sorry.
That's okay. I'm always amazed that you turn up anyway for this class. And
Oh, well,
always love having you here anyway.
thank you.
So thanks, everyone. Have a beautiful fortnight. Stay out of foreign events. See you.
Thanks, Marianne. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
you.
you.
Marianne. Thank you
Bye-bye.
so much.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Marianne.
Bye, Faris. See you, Mary. Bye, Susan. Thanks, Doris.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doris.
Thanks, Marianne.
Thanks, Mary. Thanks, Nicole, Yvonne,
Yeah.
Andrea, Yelena, Greta. Oh, Rebecca, you're up late. So thank you.
That's true. Yeah.
But can I come to Victoria from New South Wales? Because I was planning to come there for Christmas and look you up.